I'm Brett,
I'm Miranda.
in case you didn't know. And behind the controls is Aspen. And you probably can't see her right now, but at some point I'm sure you will. Our mascot, Fluff, HR Fluff and Stuff, is with us today. And so maybe she'll make an appearance at some point. But yeah, so hey, how are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Brett?
Boy, is this the best opening you've ever seen.
We're on top of it.
We're all over it. We don't know what to do because we're early for like the first time ever. So probably only by 3 minutes, but still, we're early.
That's true.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's have a very natural opening. So Miranda, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about time.
Time. We don't have the time to talk about time. That's from Star Trek. Any Trekkie would recognize that. But yeah, so today we're talking about time and what you do with it, what you can't do with it, and time dimensions, timey-wimey.
I don't think we're getting that complicated today, but...
We should have brought Doctor Who. I should have got my Dr. Whovians, Dr. Hooves, my little pony. Oh, there it is. Ah. Today we're talking about time. My Little Pony, Dr. Hooves. Okay, fine. Anyway, so 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go. Oh, well, I thought you were going to kick us off with a story about the circus.
I thought you were going to ask me about the circus.
Well, I'm asking you about the circus. Did you ever go to the circus as a small child, Brett?
This is professionalism. Don't try this at home. Yes.
No, this is going exactly like Brett would like it to go.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we're talking about time, and you'll see how it plays tonight, but, talking about circus and stuff, and sadly, I don't think Aspen's ever been to the circus. Have you ever been to the circus? Did we take you to the circus? No, we didn't.
No, I don't think the circus ever came to...
Anywhere
well,
we were
never
at.
came to Lincoln or Maryland.
No. So the circus used to go to almost every big city, a lot of small cities. The Ringling Brothers, well, there's a bunch of different ones. The biggest one was Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, which I think there's still some version of it going around. But yeah, they don't hit, all the cities like they used to. But when I was a kid, they were still big, and they were going everywhere. And I remember my dad taking us all to the circus down in Columbia, South Carolina. Yeah, at Shea Stadium, that was the name of the place, and it was indoors. And, I don't remember how old I was, but it was quite a spectacle and impressive, when you're 8 years old, I guess. And I remember the big color programs, big pictures, and they had, all kinds of lights and everything. And we were sitting, I think, somewhere right in the middle. And because my dad always had to get the best seats wherever we went somewhere. And so we were sitting in the middle, and they had 3 rings, right? And I just remember as an 8-year-old, I couldn't take it all in. It was like, I was watching one thing, but something was going over here, and I was looking over there, and I was always afraid I was missing something. And I, probably was, but it was like up in the air, and the clowns on the ground, over there in that ring, and over in that ring, and it was just, you couldn't keep track of it all. And, kind of the overwhelming spectacle. But yeah, that was the Ringling Brothers Circus. I remember we got peanuts, and I just remember like everything was expensive.
Yeah, I went to the circus as a small child as well. I don't remember exactly how old, maybe 5-ish. Mm-hmm. Actually, my grandmother on my dad's side of the family took us, and so that would have been in Des Moines, Iowa, that we went to see the circus.
Yeah.
But when my kids were little, and I lived on Kodiak Island, Alaska, believe it or not, they took a circus of some sort to Kodiak Island.
Wow.
And, it was hard to remember the circus when you saw the prices of the concessions. I mean, I don't remember how much it was, but it was at least $8 or more for a soda and $12 or something for a bag of popcorn. It was like, okay, here's one bag of popcorn, guys, share it. It's like this big.
And this is your meal for the rest of the week. How did they get a circus to an island?
They had the ferry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they every year they would bring over, in the spring they would bring over well, they called it Crab Festival. So they brought over whatever rides would fit on the boat, the ferry boat, the Tustamina. So whatever would fit on there. And so every year they would try to change it up a little, but for the most part, you get the same rides.
Did you have elephants? Like, how the heck did they get elephants over to Kodiak Island for the circus?
Honestly, I don't remember that much about it, but there were animals.
Wow.
But you're right, I don't know about elephants.
I would take any animals on that ferry.
It wouldn't make much sense. Well, I mean, it's just hard to picture them, bringing elephants, but...
All right, now I just had an idea for a movie. The circus is on its way to Kodiak Island with all the animals, and there's a storm, and they all break out.
And swim
And
somewhere.
swim back to shore, and they're free because, circus, I think one of the things that shut down for a while anyway, a lot of circus was, the animal cruelty, like they didn't take great care of their animals. But yeah, I thought that was impressive. They had a circus on Kodiak Island in Alaska.
Yeah.
Why would you even go there? You couldn't have 150 people live there?
There was 5,000 people that lived in town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Still, for a circus, that's not a lot. Like Columbia, South Carolina, you got
Well,
50,000 people.
That's probably why they charge so much for concessions.
Where did they perform? On the beach? I mean,
No, I remember going.
did y'all have a stadium of any kind?
Well, that's not where they were. It was outside. They set up their tents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. That fascinates
and I think
me.
they had their little trailer outside, with their concessions and stuff.
Yeah. I do remember years later, I think I was in Florida, and I went to a circus because it was a school trip. We took the kids at the grade school I was at to the circus, and I remember then thinking, wow, I was so impressed as an 8. It was so overwhelming, but as an adult, it was not that impressive. It was like, this is just really expensive. And of course, then in Vegas, really, circus has gone into stuff like Cirque du Soleil, where it's not so much 3 rings, it's not, but whatever it is they're doing, they want you to see all of it. So they focus it, and you're like, it's the gymnastics and the aerials, and it has a story and stuff, but really, that's kind of where circus has gone to lately.
Yeah. Well, okay, so time is a gift that God gives to us, but sometimes in our personal bubbles of time, we try to fit a 3-ring circus, or a 6-ring, or even a 12-ring circus. And I say that because Brett's life is much like that. Brett's work life is much like that this year. Just has become insane. And then not only does he have his own 3 or 6-ring circus thing going on, but someone else will come in, and within his 3-ring circus will put, in one of his rings, they will try to put their own ring in there. Yes. And so then you've got a double ring going on. And
Miranda's responsible for circuses coming into my life through her prayer life. I was perfectly happy when we got here, and I had one job.
What?
One single job.
That
full time, I might imagine. But then she prays, because we're in Aspen Academy, and Miranda, who could ask God for anything, and he says, oh, okay, prays for a job. What she failed to mention to God was that it was for her, not me.
I didn't
so God says,
to mention that.
Here's a job. We'll get one for Brett.
It's happened the last 3 times that I have asked God about getting a job.
Yes.
And it never fails. He gives Brett a job. And
so I told her, stop praying. Stop praying.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, God, the ends aren't meeting, so how about you work that out? Because praying for a job for myself is not something
that's good for my life.
Yeah. Just Brett's 3-ring circus has become
But multiplied. When you're I'm chair of the comm department, so other people's circuses end up coming into my tent because I'm the chair.
And not only that, previous people's failure to do
Failures
stuff
to run the circus.
has now landed in Brett's
My circus. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so
Yeah, all kinds of things. It's
stuff that should have been done maybe like 5 years ago or something.
They're like caught up now. Like, oh, where's this paperwork? Oh, well, now you get to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fun, but yeah, it can get really, really busy. But it does seem like, you know, when we get caught up in everything, you know, and all the stuff going on, and I remember I used to ask in Bible class or in sermons, I would do this, you know, and I would say, close your eyes, think of the most valuable thing you own, you know, and then I would ask, oh, my car, oh, my house, oh, my spouse, oh, da, da. Rarely did anybody say time, because I would say, no, actually the most valuable thing you own is time, because you only have so much of it, you don't know how much you have, and when you spend it, you can never get it back, and that's the most valuable thing you own, and it's just something we don't think about is time as a commodity, or, you know.
Right, and within our time, we create plans.
Especially when you're younger, and you just your perception is you have all the time in the world, and then as you get older, you realize that's not so much the case.
Yes, and so our plans don't always go according to our plans.
Our plans rarely go well. Our lives, anyway.
Yeah. So basically, the problem with putting all of our plans into the time that God has given us is that our bubble of time becomes distorted with a lie. The lie that we are in control.
Control, yeah.
Or should be in control. And that's not the truth.
No, control is, and yeah, I'm sure you've heard this, control is an illusion. And it is, you know, there's things where they go the way we want them to go, think they should go, and we think, oh, look at me, I'm doing pretty good controlling it, and you're not controlling anything. It just happened to go that way. And all you have to do is think about in your life the little things you didn't plan for, and all of a sudden your life is upended, and you realize how little control you have over things.
And you have an entirely different life.
A whole different life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so basically our time is finite. And take Eve, for example. Before she ate the fruit that she wasn't supposed to eat, her time was infinite. But then she decided she wanted to be in control of her own time. And she decided to live out her own words and trust her own words rather than the words of God. And after that, her time became finite.
Finite. And I would always, that would be fascinating to me, because in us, we can't comprehend infinite. Oh, there's movies about it and stories of, you know, people who live forever and that. But in all of our experience, in the totality of our experience, everything has a beginning and an end, and we can't comprehend the idea of something not having a beginning, never having a beginning. It has to have a beginning. We don't understand infinite. And for us to try and go from finite to infinite is like just impossible. It would have been interesting to go the other direction, where all Adam and Eve knew was infinite, and then they went to finite. That has to be way bigger of a jump or a change of perspective, because, you know, you're thinking no matter what, everything goes on forever, you know, and then all of a sudden, now, boom, you've got, you know, a very finite amount of time.
Yeah. And so when we live out our own words, our own plans, that's finite, because our treasures then get stored up on this earth. When we live out the words of God, our treasures get stored up in heaven, and that's infinite.
So what Miranda's going to be talking about is two different perspectives, two different ways of thinking. There's finite thinking and infinite thinking. Finite perspective, infinite perspective.
That's right. And so
her finite perspective right now, in the short term of time, she's thinking, oh, we should check Brett's blood sugars. In my infinite thinking of time, I'm thinking, it's going to be fine. We don't have to check my blood sugar.
Except that Brett's blood sugars, while starting at a good number when we got started, were headed down. And so we were sitting here with a snack ready
Nurse
to
Aspen.
go, but
Oh,
that's
I went
great,
up.
because now he went up.
I was going down,
That's
and I
fabulous.
Yay!
So now we're happy, and we may not have to check it again. So, okay, so we're to pack up our finite plans, our plans that suit ourselves, basically, and our plans that imagine us to be in control. We're to pack those up and leave them in the past, because God has plans for us. And those plans for us is that we are God's plan. We are God's plan, okay? He desires to have a relationship with us. Mm-hmm. And when he knocks on our heart's door, he wants us to open it so he can come in and spend his time with us. And he wants our hearts to be a place where we desire him. That's his plan for us, right? Mm-hmm. He wants our hearts to be a place where he can rest and enjoy our presence. When we're so busy with our three-ring circuses and we're ignoring him basically and stuff, mm-hmm. I mean, that doesn't work out so well for our relationships when we're treating other people like that. And so it doesn't work out well either for our relationship with God when we are treating God like that.
So you said God's, how'd you say it? God's plan, God's time with us?
Oh, we are God's plan.
What does that mean?
We are God's plan. God's plan is to spend time with us in a relationship. Mm. And he's the one that does everything for us. Mm. And that creates peace.
So essentially you could say that, God's, time plan is to, spend time with us. But he's thinking from an infinite perspective, not just this time with us on earth, but right. Forever.
Right. But he wants to start that now.
Now. Forever would start now. So he's not thinking finite, your life on earth. And then he's thinking infinite in the moment. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the change in perspective of like us thinking just this life versus...
Right. And our plan is our plan.
Our plans.
Yes, yeah. Our plans. And in the meantime, he has a plan. Our plans occasionally avoid God, and they avoid his words because maybe we don't want to do that. Like we were just talking about Jonah in Sabbath school today. Mm-hmm. So Jonah, despite being a prophet of God, and clearly a man of God, basically, mm-hmm. and people respected him and such, he avoided the words of God. He didn't want to live those out. Mm-hmm. And that was his plan. Mm-hmm. And God's plan is like, hey, you know what? Let's just go to Nineveh together and do this thing. And Jonah's like, no, thank you.
So what you're saying is Jonah was a prophet, but he really never got it.
Sad but true.
Sad but true. Veggie Tales. Sorry. But even then, see, that could have been the infinite perspective that Jonah didn't get, that no matter where he was going with God, and that was fine.
Yeah.
And he had his plans for, I want to stay here in Israel and keep giving them your messages because I'm the prophet. And yet, God's plan was, we're going to be bigger than that. We're going to save the Ninevites. We're going to...
Yeah, and while we always see Jonah as going to Nineveh for the Ninevites, how do we know that God wasn't sending Jonah to the Ninevites for Jonah mm-hmm. and for the Israelites?
Yeah. Yeah, because, well, did we do Jonah before?
Yeah, we did Jonah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, because we were talking about, the Israelites needed that kind of wake-up call as well. And Jonah would have been kind of an encapsulation of the attitude of the Israelites. And, yeah, it would have been, because they were supposed to be the light to the world, and, yeah, again, finite plans, infinite plans. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, and we cannot always see into God's infinite plan. Mm-hmm. It's much like the story there in 2 Kings chapter 6.
Ah, yeah. So, back in the Old Testament, and this had to be so frustrating for, the one king. So Israel was at war with, who was it? Was it the Ammonites, Mennonites, Jebusites? One of those ites. They were at war with ites.
Apparently, no. Yeah, the king of Aram.
Aram, the Amorites. So, they were at war with the king of Aram, and the king of Aram got his generals together, and they were like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to sneak up on Israel, and we're going to do this secret plan. We're going to, and then we do that, and then Israel would already be there, and they'd go like, oh, hey, King Aram, we've already been here. And then go away and defeat. And this happened over and over and over again. And finally, the king of Aram was like, this is so frustrating. Who of you generals of mine are betraying me? And they're like, it's not any of us, dude. It's this guy, the prophet of Israel, and Elisha. And God tells him the very things you're saying in your bedroom. And believe me, you want to really tone that down because he's telling the king of Israel. And so they go to get Elisha. He's like, we're going to get him, and then we'll get the Israelites. And so they go to get Elisha, and they surround, him and his, hometown there. And his servant, I don't remember his servant's name.
That's a very good question.
Bob. His servant was called Bob.
Yes, his servant was called Bob, because I'm not sure that it says here
it was Bob
in the
the
Bible,
servant for us today.
specifically.
And he's like, oh, well, they're all here. We're all going to die. And Elisha's like, calm down, calm down. There's more of us than there are of them, and now Bob is convinced that Elisha has gone over the edge because there's two of them and the entire army with King Aram behind him. And then, if you know the story, oh, Lord, open the eyes of Bob here. And so he gets to see all the angels in the chariots, the thousands and thousands of angels, surrounding them. And, that was what was the spiritual reality of what was going on. There was one angel could have taken out the whole army, but there was, a whole army of angels to protect Elisha and Bob.
Yes, and it's very interesting how the story ended as well. But so basically, Elisha's servant is really concerned about all of these soldiers out there because they must have known what they were there for, maybe.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so he's really concerned about this. This is not going to have a good ending. And basically, they aren't in control, and neither is even the king of Israel in control, because they are surrounded by a lot of enemy soldiers. But Elisha is entirely unconcerned. Why? Because he can see into God's plan, right? He can see into God's time because he can see all of God's angels there that are surrounding them. And so too, after Elisha prays, the servant can now too see God, what God's plan is. And now he too is unconcerned because clearly the mighty power of God is ruling over the whole situation.
Yeah.
So basically, time can seem like this big scary place, right? That no matter how hard we try, we don't really have control over. And when we do see God's plan and trust his plan, we start to see how he is there taking care of us. We're to live that out by faith. Because without faith, sometimes our time just seems like one big kaboom after the next. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we have to believe that kaboom, those kabooms are good things. Getting rid of things that stood in our way to a better relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yes, take Jonah, for example. He was going places, and it wasn't to Nineveh.
Yeah.
And then, kaboom, there was a big whale and a big storm and all that kind of stuff. And his plans were drowning, basically, you could say.
And for those of you who were born and grew up in the 60s, you will recall the wonderful breakfast cereal called Kaboom, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just thought of it just at the moment. Kaboom. Mm-hmm. I used to eat that. Kaboom. It had a big clown on it. Circus. The Circus of Kaboom. Oh, that's what we should call this.
The Circus of Kaboom.
So when we post this, it's going to have a new title. The Circus of Kaboom. I like it.
Right. And so basically, personal stories where we thought we were controlling our time. It didn't work out so well.
Well, there's a lot of those.
There's a lot of those. But I mean, just simple ones that we've told before, like anytime we've been house hunting for a place to rent. And this place, I mean, we called all sorts of places.
Well, we'd given up on, I wanted to live in this little cul-de-sac.
It's true, but nobody was calling us back.
No one's calling us back.
Yeah, we'd be driving around the neighborhood and we'd think, oh, there's a sign, let's call them. Yeah. And you'd call them and leave a message, and nobody ever called you back.
Yeah.
So finally, we made an appointment with this place.
Yeah, well, we had come down. It was like it's right across the street from the university, and it was actually the one next door to us we were looking at. You know, it's like because but it was already then rented before we could get a chance at it. And we had really given up being in here because I thought, oh my God, we were about ready to do this house that was like not very far away, but you know, across the street and into another neighborhood. And I don't remember exactly the progression of events, but somebody was moving out, and then it wasn't going to be ready. They're going to put out new flooring and do all this cleaning and stuff. But at some point, it was like, if you want to see it, we're going to open it for a show on such and such a date.
And so that was like a couple, like we were down here, you had accepted the job, and then we had to come back like a month later to view it.
Right, because we had planned to come back. Oh, no, we didn't have a place to stay, so we came down here just to see it. Because it was like us and two others. Mm-hmm. And then we were here, and while we were here, somebody else did look at it. And the third person didn't show up, but the other two. And then after they met us, they were, well, quite naturally, they were like, please rent, we want you. Yeah, they wanted us. So. And it was it was perfect. And they put all hardwood floors in, and I'm right across the street from my own building, not just the university, my building, so it's and they've been great, for so long, and they haven't raised the rent on us since we've been
they even
here.
come over and mow the lawn these days. Yeah.
So that was one there where we thought, oh, we gotta find, and then God opened the door. But all the times we were looking for a job. Like even here, we weren't, I was looking for all other kind of jobs and nothing, and then this opened up at the last second.
Yeah, and he had 3 almost job offers in a row. And it was one of those things, well, like, such a long unemployment, why don't you at least get some job at Walmart or something like that? And it was because it's not as though you didn't sort of try, but it was one of those things like, oh, okay, this job is promising. Wait, they said that I'm the guy.
Yeah.
And then, a few weeks later, that didn't work out. Oh, maybe we should get a job at Walmart.
Yeah.
Oh, another call.
Yeah.
Another talkie. Another, hey, you're the guy.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of drug out like that. But anyways, something else that kind of went kaboom multiple times. But no, when Brett had this little Subaru Baja, which he adored that car.
It was a good car.
It was a little mini pickup.
Yeah.
5-speed turbo, fun to drive.
Yeah, it was actually a modern version of the Brat they used to have back in the 70s and 80s, but it was
broke down all of the time.
Now, when we got married, blissfully married, I said this twice today. I had a brand new Subaru, and she had this old RAV4.
But
however,
whose car survived?
As pride was about to be taken out of my life.
Yeah.
Because I was like, look what I'm bringing to the marriage, a brand new car. Yeah.
My car was paid for and never broke down.
Yeah, her car was like, Elijah's chariot. Nothing, I can't remember what the brake thing, but had been, 10 years and never changed, and I was taking in for brakes, and I was like, those things have got to be, paper thin now, the disc brake, because, they haven't ever been. No, they're good.
Yeah, we're like, we think we need brakes now. No, nope, you don't need brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and multiple other things like that.
And her car kept going and going.
Yes.
Mine kept going down and down.
It's true. And then, like, he was like, well, I love my car. And so if I just keep making all these repairs, eventually it's going to have all new parts and it'll be great and never break down again. Only problem is, it went kaboom.
It went kaboom.
Because all of a sudden, just as soon as we paid it off, it broke down so badly.
Yeah.
It was going to cost more to fix it than it was worth. And so we finally gave up.
Yeah.
Oh, Brett gave up on that
I gave
idea.
up. That was it. Finally went over the edge.
Yes.
I love that car.
Yeah, so we think we have our plan, and then it wasn't.
It was not to be.
No.
But something always better came. Something I would not have expected. I mean, and not to get into the whole idea, it's a big story with Baja and the Outback, but I would never have another Subaru again. I was never going to have another Subaru again. Subaru sucks. We have a Subaru Outback, and it was the car to have.
Yeah, it's very nice, and it's has heated seats.
Yeah.
And we went to Nebraska after that, so we really appreciated that.
So it's stuff you don't even imagine, and that's what God had for you next. Same thing with the job, same thing, all kinds of things where stuff just blew up, right before we thought we were going somewhere, and it would blow up, and then the completely unexpected, which was better than anything else, actually came through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so basically, we try harder and we run faster, but we cannot make our time infinite, even though we would try.
We'd try.
Yes. And infinite time has peace. Infinite time has time to be kind and patient to others as well.
It's interesting, I didn't think of this when we had gone over this and stuff, but some of you may have read an article or heard about it anyway. There's a couple of these, millionaires, billionaires who are just running after pursuing, long life, and they're spending all this money and spending all their time on all these treatments and all these things, and their whole time is spent in, and it's not just exercise and diet, it's all kinds of stuff they're doing, and it's having an effect, and they're trying to slow the aging process, and because they're all about living, but they're actually spending most of their time trying to extend their life. Mm-hmm. And so the argument goes around, like, well, yeah, but you're wasting your life trying to extend it, and you're missing out on life while you're but like you said, we try to try eternity, and these guys are using modern science and stuff and spending all their money on trying to buy another 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically, God himself is infinite, and he leads us in his paths of righteousness. And so I'm really loving how Psalm 23 works out with so many things we've been talking about lately. Mm-hmm. But basically, it is in Psalm 23 where the Good Shepherd does everything for the sheep, and the sheep does nothing. Mm-hmm. And basically, time is not distorted when we live out the Psalm 23 way of living. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but it just starts. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. When we get our three-ring circuses going, 6-ring circuses, we are always wanting something. And generally, we're wanting more peace. But sometimes we just want more stuff, more get it done, more of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
which in itself, a lot of times there's a way to look at life like this, like we are all pursuing peace, and it's just the things we think will give us peace.
Yeah.
And as we pursue those things, what's really behind it is, well, if I just have this, I'll be at peace. If I just get to this job, I'll finally have made it, I'll be at peace. If I just have this stuff, I'll be at, and we're all actually searching for that peace that passes understanding, but we never can get it if we're like finite thinking.
Yeah. And so basically, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me to green pastures and beside still waters. And it's all the stuff that the Good Shepherd does for us that we try to do for ourselves, and it just doesn't work out so well.
Yeah.
So Psalm 23 is all about what the Good Shepherd does for the sheep. And the sheep does nothing, but sometimes we try to pick up stuff and do it for ourselves anyways. And when we travel with the Good Shepherd, he carries everything that we need. And anytime we try to carry something for ourselves, basically, it just becomes a burden.
And explain to the beautiful people at the home studio audience, do you mean we should do nothing and just wait for God to do it for us?
No, because that isn't necessarily part of God's plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we, what's the difference between doing, pursuing anything and then just thinking, well, I don't have to do anything?
We're to follow in the footsteps of Jesus and live out his example. And are we doing it for ourselves? Mm-hmm. Are we doing it? The ultimate way to live out our loving relationship with God is there in the Lord's Prayer. And everything in the Lord's Prayer was there because clearly it is something we cannot do on our own, and it is only something that God can do for us. And so it says, we're to do the will of God on earth as it is done in heaven. And that is simply to serve God because we love Him and for no other reason. And so that boils down to that. Are we serving God because we love Him or because we're going to get something for ourselves out of that? And if we're getting something for ourselves, if we're doing it because we want to get something for ourselves, that becomes a burden rather than doing it for God. When we do it strictly because we just desire to serve Him and we love Him so much that we wouldn't live any other way, it becomes an entirely different, peaceful way of living.
Yeah, no matter what's going on.
Right, because most of us we do. We need to show up to work and have a job and pay the bills and live in a house and all this kind of stuff. And but it doesn't have to be a burden.
So the sheep shows up, and the sheep is open and willing to follow the directions and leading and guidance of the shepherd. And the shepherd leads the grass. The shepherd leads the still waters. The shepherd takes care of the sheep. The sheep shows up, and the sheep is willing. And, that's kind of the difference between, like, in the motivation, am I doing this to, get more? Am I trying to do it for myself to grow, versus am I doing it?
Or am I checking off the list of good things to do?
Right.
Because doing good, we feel, is going to make us good people, but that is not how it works at all.
Right. Because, I went to school. I got a degree. I applied for jobs. I, practice my skills. I do things. I don't just sit back and wait for God to do everything. I do things. But, Miranda spends, I don't know how many hours a day, working on her writing and books and stuff. She's putting in work. And as God directs us, she's not sitting there going, here are my blank pages, God. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah.
You're doing something. It's just she feels called, and I believe it is true that she feels called to write these things and put these things, because she writes all this stuff, and as God gives that to her and leads her in that, as God opens the doors, closes the doors for wherever I'm going and doing, and that's what He does for you. What do you have in front of you, and are you the sheep showing up? And just listening and willing, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, being open and willing to the direction and the guidance of God.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so we're going to end with a little, we call this story time or devotional thought time.
Yep. Okay. So, this is our closing parting thought, and it's kind of cool. It's not really story, it's sort of, but it's inspirational. That's what
it's
inspirational reading. So here we go. Seek not the things of this earth, but arrive to my pearly gates, having spent all I've given you. May you spend every last bit of patience I give you, every last bit of kindness, every last bit of love. Spend till you think you will go broke, and then the floodgates will burst forth, and your cup will run over, and surely goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. I don't have time for you to waste. Spend every moment of your time drawing closer to me in whatever situation you find yourself in. And you do draw closer to me by spending all I've given you with the attitude of going broke. Spend it all. It just grows bigger and it never runs out. My mercy for you, my love for you, my little one, never ever runs dry. It can't, for I am an endless supply of all that you need. A place of peace, humility, and love, and I haven't got any place else for you to be, or for you to go, except deep into my heart of love for you, and it's meant for you to share. I am rich in love for you. See the piles of diamonds and jewels in my heart. It is yours, all yours to share. I am your Father, rich in love and mercy. You are my child, rich in love and mercy. Live like it never runs out. I have a key of faith for you. It opens doors that otherwise would remain closed. I will carry it for you here next to my heart. When you find yourself in a hallway of darkness, ask me to open the door for you. Yes, I know you can't even see a door. There are multiple doors. but please do not go stumbling around in the dark, trying to randomly open the doors on your own, willing to accept anything to be out of the dark hallway. I have the key to the door I plan to open for you. Call on me for help, and I will arrive in peace and great mercy to you and open the door I have prepared for you. When I open a door, what lies beyond it remains to be seen, but it is full of my love and mercy for you, awaiting the time for you to spend it well. New places and new faces, but always my love and mercy to spend without regard for the consequences of spending too much, for you can never spend too much of my love, for spending it only increases its value. Do not undermine my plans by not spending enough love. Look up, away from self, and find new ways to spend my love for you.
Yes, when we look away from self and our plans and just look to God, He's the one with the plan.
And He has a promise and plan for everybody. As He says, before I put you together in your mother's womb, I have the plans for you prepared in advance. So
That's kind of cool that God just really planned for your life like that.
yeah. And no matter what choices we've made or roads we've gone up and down that, may not have been, part of the original ultimate plan, He's always got plan B, C, D, E. He's always got a way to bring you back and around to the path He has for you. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. It's been fun. And we were going to go out and see something in Texas today, but Aspen didn't want to leave the house. She's such a homebody. So Aspen is now.
Brett wanted to take a nap.
Brett couldn't find anything we are in Keene, Texas. Nothing against Keene, Texas. It's just there's not a lot of stuff to go see.
Yeah, we've kind of been out to see it. We would be
everywhere.
repeating ourselves.
I mean, there's a lot of parks, but they're all pretty much the same. If you like to boat, fish, or swim, that's what they got.
Yeah, basically all the state parks.
State parks are that way. Yeah.
Except for the dinosaur one.
Dinosaur Valley, and then that one I want to go back to that had the cabins and the barns, so the historical place.
Yeah.
But so hopefully, we'll go out and find something new to see. If not, we'll do repeats of places we've been. I guess we haven't been, to the desert and just done salt next to a cactus. We could do that. It is Texas.
Or sagebrush.
Yeah, sagebrush. Watch the weeds go tumbling by. Anyway, so hope you had a good Sabbath, and hope you have a great